yesterday. Very nice. Let me say congratulations on you throwing your hat in the ring. And I certainly wish you all the best from the depths of my heart. We need some sort of change here. Unmute your microphone. I'm not hearing you. You have to unmute your microphone.
I said the next good afternoon to everyone. Good afternoon to Ruben. Melissa, who is always on time. I mean, she's so professional, although she is not on the crew as per se in terms of participation in that way. I could always rely on her to get me in on time. I just have to say, I say people say a shout out, and Ruben, who listens and every now and again interjects with little comments. You are welcome, Ruben. You are welcome. And David and I have developed this. No, Daddy Mark. I find it difficult to call him Daddy Mark.
That's okay.
I see him as David, but we waiting, of course, to come. But what I was saying was this, that if next time I have to buy lotto tickets, I'm going to ask you to buy it for me. Why? Because when we ended the last show, when I had not made up my mind, and they were throwing out names, you were very firm that the person to go up was Nunez Tesheira.
Yes.
I remember that I smiled to myself and obviously made no comment, but it was very noteworthy to me that you were very firm in your conviction on that. So I don't think I'm going to buy another lotto ticket without consulting with you.
I hear you. I hear you. Yeah, I'm very firm on that. I don't see any comparison or opposition to that, you know. I think what I've been hearing from you is what the nation needs to hear, and I pray that should you be held to that esteem and put in a position like that, I know you're going to turn things around. I know you need to see a better Trinidad and Tobago.
Absolutely. You know, we don't have a crystal ball, and there are things that can happen that over which we do not have control. We're seeing talking about you using nuclear arms in Russia.
Yes.
You're saying now that Ukraine wants to join NATO, which will change the whole ball game. But of course, it doesn't happen overnight. It takes, my understanding, at least a year or two before it can happen. But it's a very significant move because, as we know, under the NATO agreement, attack against one is attack against all. And because Ukraine is not, it acts as a sort of buffer between Russia and the other Eastern European countries, it is not a member of NATO. So in a sense, it acts as a sort of a buffer. But having applied, as my understanding, to be a member of NATO, it means the ball game can change and change very quickly. And all this talk about nuclear, and we have to understand that when we say, oh, that's another part of the world, it has nothing to do with us. Well, that would be true if Russia was not a major player in the energy sector, both in natural gas and oil. That would be true if the new political theater and game playing that we see acted out involves all the big superpowers. Russia and China on one side, Russia trying to play both sides. You know that they have agreed that they would make payments in rubles and the Chinese currency. So, in other words, to crowd out the dependency on the US currency being dominant currency for oil and gas. And we also know that those two mishaps with the gas line from Russia to Europe was very suspect. So every day we are facing, you have to be agile, you have to be quick to respond, you have to have the vision, and you have to have the determination and experience. I've seen somebody wearing shades, wearing darker. So I say, I can't understand, I'm looking like a sharp boy.
No, just like you. You know,
if I'm pronouncing the word, because it sounds like when I say incognito, he look like he's not in Trinidad. after you use foreign words, just oh, he taking off the glass. He taking off the glass. It's all man, it's all.
Welcome, my brother. We're not hearing you. Unmute your microphone.
Soon I have to head to the airport. I don't know if they felt I overstayed my time in the hotel. So I don't know if they tried to put me out. But,
No.
but I just joking. But
Be in their place. They don't know.
So-
You don't know who they are, to whom they are speaking.
no, but I have to. So at about 5:30 or so, we may break for 3 minutes before I come back on. Yeah. But I'd had a transition to the airport just now. But you know what commitment to our show, it doesn't matter where in the world you are. You're gonna make sure and come on. So here I am.
Well, I think, Richard, if I may say so, that you show extreme dedication to this show, because when I think of responsibilities, I know that you have, and I know that require you to make trips and to represent your a company, which is organization, which is one of the most successful ones in that particular field, if not the most. So I don't want you to have to correct me. The most successful. The kind of commitments that you have to be dealing with on a day-to-day basis, for you to make this commitment to the show, I think it's extraordinary. And I'm not flattering you. I really think about it and I say, no matter what, he's in a car, he's home, he's not home, he's telling you gonna do thing, but he is there. And he's there within, if it's 10 minutes, but he is there.
That's the truth. Over, I think it's about 20 years on with Paul 102, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah.
You had to give him a medal? They didn't give him a medal? No long service award, and give you a watch and send you home, Then you don't want to watch, huh? You have enough. And you could watch, the time on your phone.
Yeah.
You're not saying
No.
anything.
No long service award, nothing like that, but just a commitment. And we have built this brand, the power of talk, for many years, over the years, and we're on a different system now, and we want to maintain that. And the way you do that is to always be available. Try to be as consistent as you possibly can, because you have people out there who are waiting to hear us. People call me every day to find out, even about Karen and Michaela and so on, and Farid, so that is good. People always have comments. You wouldn't believe, we drive people home, Karen. We put some people to sleep. They can't sleep until they hear our show. All that type of thing, Some people make their coffee and their food and ask to put it at the bedside, because when the show starts, they don't want to be interrupted, So I want to say good day to all those people. We have heard all those comments and more.
Wow.
I know about a man who carries his radio out to sea, and when he's out there, from the time the show begins, fish could be coming 20,000 a second. He don't want He said at that time he tuned into the show, fishing done. So
It's my understanding that talk radio really had its genesis first in 102, and then it went over, whatever word that escapes me, probably is a better word than that, to 95.5, but it really had its genesis in 102. Oh, I've gotten it wrong.
Well, I would interject here and say it really started at the 100 in the days of NBN on Marvel Road, in the latter days of NBN. It really started off there. Then when NBN was closed, the on stream, when I say on stream, the coming on stream of Power 102, the talk was really intensified, and then you know how things go. We had people breaking ranks, and then it went to I-95 became another version of talk radio.
Okay,
we
so
have
that is how it happened. That is what I wanted to clarify in my mind.
It really started with 100 on NBN, Marvel Road.
Okay, I have a feeling you have a connection with NBM.
Yes,
One.
I-
Yes,
I-
that's what I'm looking. That's what I'm beginning to conclude. But Richard, I'm waiting for you to say something. I mean, I'm highly disappointed.
No, Daddy Mac been in radio long before me.
So why not talking about that?
What?
Like we don't read any papers or what?
What about your next endeavor, Karen?
I wonder.
Yeah.
I wonder if that's what I'm talking about. Huh?
No, Karen, help me.
I come here on the show, prepare myself, sit down, say, okay, I'm waiting for Richard. He gave all kind of names last time, and I noted that one person in particular kept saying Karen Nunez Tesheira, at which time I had not made up my mind, by the way. And I did say to myself, well, you know, he said it with such, he was so emphatic about it. That was what struck me about it. You know, he was very emphatic. Even after you said what you said, he came back and said it. And I said, you know, well, he's going to buy all my lotto tickets in the future. That's what I told him too.
Well, Karen, let me tell you, I think you have made a move, in my opinion, that could help the people of this country, our country. Right? I think we all agree that we need a new political leader and prime minister. I think a lot of us agree on that. And people sometimes will talk the talk, but they never walk it. You have gotten involved and you are prepared to put your name and your very good, impeccable track record and name and image on the line. And I believe that it's the correct thing to do. I wish you all the best. I will personally support you as much as I could from where I am on the radio and anywhere on the ground. I really hope that you win, but I prepare to make the case to everyone about the loose mouth man that you are fighting and that he has done nothing for people of this country so that people would understand what is happening. He has not done anything. He's telling you now about if you take a car to come to town from Sandy Grande for no good reason, and you burn all that fuel. You ever heard more stupidity than that?
I tell you.
You know anybody in Trinidad who like to be in traffic? You know anybody that's wait home and say the traffic ready? Let me go and join it now. I mean, how foolish it could be. People end up in traffic because they had to go to work. And on top of that, he's saying, you know, why you don't choose another time to come?
Another his MP who said that. It's he that said that?
He said that. You understand the clip?
Well, you could do that. You could, yes, because I thought it was the MP Scotland, Keith Scotland went on a bicycle.
No, that's a different.
Now telling people go back to coal pot
And
if
bicycle.
you can't buy gas. Go back to coal pot. That is the kind of foolishness here in the country. Right?
Well, you know, go ahead, Richard. I want you to.
No, let me send all of the clip Daddy Mac played so that everyone can hear. I forwarding it to you now.
Okay, great.
And I can make a comment that, you know.
I think like Richard used to be saying, it seems as though everybody is on the same page when narratives are concerned. First of all, it was Shamfa Kojo, and then Keith Scotland, the Prime Minister. I don't know who's next.
Well, obviously it is it's
Daddy
not
Mac, you get here.
Yeah.
in the interim, you know what that reminds me of?
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me of the they said she didn't say it, but it is a very famous saying which we all are familiar with during the French Revolution. I remember I went actually to see the Palais de Versailles, and you know, you have to see it in person to really believe the magnitude, the ostentatiousness, the vulgarity of the wealth. And it had high walls, and you could only picture in your mind the rank and file in a winter with no food to eat, with their clothing bare, sitting outside the gates. This is what they've done pictures and done that type of thing to show you the inhumanity. And the Marie Antoinette was quoted, even if it is not true, but it has stayed the test of time. Let them eat cake. And I make that analogy because this is not even a question of vulgarity. It's a question of a level of insensitivity that is unacceptable and it's not only unacceptable. We cannot have a leader speak to us in that way. Now, when I came down today, I said to myself that we spend too much time saying which is what, who didn't do this, who didn't do that, who didn't do this, who didn't do that. And really, for most people, what they're looking for is that we change. There's a French saying that the more things change, the more they remain. C'est la plus ça change, c'est la plus whatever it is. I can't say la même. I can't remember the exact thing, and somebody's listening to me and laughing at how I've made a complete carbonalized that saying, but it's a French saying. And we don't want to go down that path where we spend all our time saying all the things they did wrong. We have to do it because we have to mobilize people, because history, they tell you, those who don't learn from the lessons of history are bound to repeat it. So we can't forget what is going on now, because it has to be a motivating force. And while it motivates us for change, which is absolutely necessary at this point in time, we also have to say, well, if we give this person an opportunity, what is she going to do differently? Because there's a certain level, understandably, of cynicism in the country, or politicians as a whole, that they make promises. You had I don't think it was a joke, I think it was actually true, where they built a bridge to nowhere. They spent a bridge that went to nowhere, and so we want I want that to be shown, because it's the same prime minister who, when we talk about domestic violence, had to say, well, I can tell you about who much man to bring in your bed. I mean, you mean that's what you have to say? And then you have to talk about how you must handle a woman as if, like, as a lawnmower, as like a golf course, and you have to mow it. A prime minister, like if in a rum shop talking, and like having no respect for women. That's what I see. And how he buys his wives, I don't know if he used the word panties, but I think he did use the word panties. And if he didn't use the word panties, he used the word underwear. It's a very personal thing. He shows a lack of respect for women. He shows a lack of respect for himself. And he also shows a lack of respect for, you come from suffering. You come from hardship. You come for dreadlocks man. I don't know why. Minister of National Security. And I was going to say something else, but a person told me, don't say that, because if you do that, you really you don't enter into that type of discourse. But the point about it is that they all tell you how hard things were and the hardships. But I don't get the impression they tell it to you to say, we understand your struggle and you are dealing with a whole new world. We're living in a whole new world of guns and drugs galore, in a way that was never there before, and challenges that we did not have before. That's not the message they're sending to us. The message they're sending to us, we had a hard time and we made it. What wrong with you? What's wrong with you? Why can't you do it? And that what it does, if you're in a family, you think a child who hears that from their father, what is the impact? You think it's going to motivate the child to do better? It only alienates the child and makes them feel, well, it's true, I really can't do. You have a self-fulfilling prophecy. That is your response. When you have the tools and ability to make their lives better. I mean, I find it unbelievable that they said what they said. I find that, it's beyond, it's not arrogance, There's a word they use, hubris. That hubris, it goes beyond arrogance, that you can, and insensitivity, that you could tell people who's suffering, who have hardship. I'm not even talking about your fancy car and your fan. Okay, I'm not even going down that road. But you can't see as a human being, what these people living in the East have their children to send to school, have to get up early in the morning, make a lunch, make a breakfast to send their children, watching what they make because the price of food has gone up so high. Sometimes they probably can't even, they're ashamed. Sometimes they're keeping the child home because they have no money to give them for transport or to give them a proper meal. So they don't want them to go out there and they're feeling embarrassed. and you going to say use charcoal and then use what? Don't be traveling on the road so much, and that is what
Right.
you going to say? That's what you going to say? I don't know. It's just actually, I mean, I saw the bicycle thing. I did see that, right? But I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah. All right, Daddy Mac, you can run the thing.
No, I didn't get it in a Richard. Try and resend it for me.
All right, let me try again.
Yeah, yeah.
I WhatsApp it to you, you know.
Yeah, but I'm not seeing it.
Okay.
Try again. Yeah.
Hold a second, Karen. Just let me try again.
Yeah, but it's real disrespectful, I think, what I'm hearing from these politicians, especially knowing that soon come they'll be giving us the date for the local elections. So I don't know what kind of mood they're trying to put us in.
I don't know. It boggles the imagination that, well, one, they seem to take their cue from what the Prime Minister says.
Exactly.
And the cue that they're taking is one that shows a complete disconnect with the suffering of people. And they have to understand, that when they portray, did you get it? As soon as you get it, I will.
Just so Daddy Mac is saying it, get there twice. It's on one tick.
Okay, let me see. I will check it out.
It's on your phone. It kind of a strange kind of picture, but just press the play sign.
All right, okay.
You seen that?
No, I still not seen it yet. I don't know what's happening here.
I must say, Daddy, Mark David keeps his voice always modulated at a certain level. Always. I never hear him.
All right. I'm going to come off to see if that is the problem and come back on.
All right, okay. Yes, Karen, a lot of people are talking now. A lot of people, they say when you go on the radio, tell them that we are disgusted with what they are saying, and they are talking down to us instead of trying to talk to us in a way to uplift us. So a lot of people have been telling me that all weekend long.
They're right, but they're absolutely right. And now, okay, quite from the, they say 600, that, but you may not know it was in my days. They had that saying that, in other words don't really affect you. But you remember, if you do the Bible, and I'm not any big, because the Roman Catholic Church tended, I don't know for whatever reason they had, but they were not one that encouraged the reading of the Bible as a lot of other churches did. But what you do know is, and the word became man. So you never underestimate the power of the word.
That's
the
right.
Word and manifesting that word. And when you speak those words to someone, especially a young person, whether they tell you, oh, I don't care, it doesn't matter to me. The reality is that person, when they grow up, they said, I'll never forget when the Prime Minister too said that, my mother hustling to thing, and what he's going to tell her. Like, he has no empathy, no sympathy. And you know what he must remember? He must remember this, that the Eric Williams, the father of our nation, as well as the founding leader of the People's National Movement, along with those who worked with him in crafting the Constitution and setting all the aims and objectives of the PNM. What he made sure to understand was the importance of what they call the lowly masses. He has to understand, if you take the approach he is taking, let's just take his approach, and we use United States. United States is made up of immigrants from Ireland, from Italy, from Poland, from all over Europe, from India and other countries, but in particular in the early days, from Eastern European countries. And the people that came through Ellis Island, who came there, they could neither read nor write. They were the peasant class. And a lot of them left their homes in search of a better life because things were that bad. There was no way for them. Today, those very same people, given the opportunities, well, the John F. Kennedy family is an Irish family, and the Kennedy family is like American royalty. But my point is, it is the opportunity that people want. It is the opportunity. And the Concord Act, which I always come back to, is the opportunity that perhaps helps me. Not, I can't speak for Dr. Rowley, but I know for many other people, the Concord Act was there, as my parents would always tell me, said, listen, we don't have any business to leave here, you know. So your future and your thing is that education, and no one can take it away from you. But you have to give me a chance. You have to give me an opportunity. And what my greatest concern that I with this government is that their answer to dealing with the vast majority of the population is to give them subsidies. That is not, yes, you need it for the disabled. Yes, you need it. Even some of the senior citizen grants, I think we have to maybe relook that. But yes, we need it. When no one is saying no, it's every country does it. Every developed country does it. But what we need is to give people an opportunity to raise themselves outside of poverty. And you don't own anything, and your subsidy cannot take you out of that. It is for the government to give them the helping hand to become. You found this. You found it. Richard is back with us. So have we found it?
No, and I'm not seeing it on the phone either. I don't know what's happening here.
Okay, I sent the thing to Karen as well.
Oh,
You see that one? You see now sending it to Karen? I don't know, boy.
Yeah,
Karen
it's on double tick.
Karen is never a good idea. I don't know by now you don't realize that. I don't know why. I know what I mean? By now, Richard, you're exposing me. I've seen a video came to me.
Yeah, that's it from me, right?
A video come to me. But I don't know. I see a video
Karen,
come to me.
don't just run any video. Make sure it came from me.
I got it. How about to send it on?
And if you had chosen to go at a different time, you wouldn't have had to burn up. But nobody thinks about the cost of fuel when they plan a trip in Trinidad and Tobago.
I mean, that is what you're going to tell the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I mean, before you come and say that as a responsible statesman, as a responsible prime minister, recognize. So let me ask him then. So if we started going at different hours, people have children, take the children out of bed at 3 o'clock. The children have to be at school by 7:38. Most of these people have children. Most of them go to primary and secondary schools or a thing. So how are you going to be able to do that when you have to have your children in the school by a certain time in school? How is that going to be accomplished? So people don't have a personal life. There's not work-life balance. Isn't there time after the children, even you go and play a little tennis, play a little football? You say, I mustn't go and, what is heaven's name? But you can go and play golf at 5 o'clock in the morning when you don't have, because you have a whole set of people following you. Oh, you could say that. How could that come out your mouth, even if you thought it? How could you even think to say that? You know, and then going, and you have Keith Scotland Senior Council sitting on a bicycle. He go to work on a bicycle. I want to know if Steve Scotland, and I have nothing against him personally, but I would like to see what his car look like. I really want to see you telling people, you start going to work on a bicycle. Go to work on a bicycle and go home on a bicycle, and whichever girlfriend or friend you have to pick up, put them to sit on a saddle seat on your bicycle, right? Because you have to live what you're telling me to live. You have to live it first. And then if you live it, I will say nothing better than example. You know, when you're bringing up children, you say, don't tell me, do not what I say, do as I say, not as what I do. You go on the bicycle. Let all your ministers leave their cars home, right? Tell them all to leave their cars, their multi-million-dollar cars home, and jump on a bicycle, right? Because they might lose some weight too. Some of them need to lose some weight, huh? Some of them need to lose some plenty weight too. Jump
I
on the
agree.
bicycle. Yeah, well, and that's for the health, because you know, non-communicable diseases like diabetes and high blood pressure and hypertension, one of the great indicators is being obesity, right? And a lack of exercise. So you know what? Get rid of your chauffeurs. You don't need them. Have them part-time so you reduce the thing. And go on your bicycle, put your basket in front, put your lunch in it, and you do what you're telling people to do. And don't forget to have children, so you'll have to make sure too that you buy bicycles for your children, because your children have to go to school. Now, I don't know how they reach in the school safely if they have to be in school at a certain time, because they want us to stagger the hours. So let's see how that works out. But don't tell me to do something that you will not do. It's okay. You know what? It's okay for them, not for you. You came from poverty and you telling people how to live their life. Telling them, and by the way, it wasn't even a breadfruit, huh?
Let me tell you, yet another statement.
It was either jackfruit or what you call that thing now that I don't want to say what we call it because it's kind of rude, the word, but we all loved it. You know, when you boil it and in the brown châtaigne. Right? I don't know if it was a châtaigne or something. So, I mean, you're not ashamed of yourselves. Lead by example. When I see you start doing that, and do it every day, you know. I want you to do it every day, and let your chauffeur get the bicycle, because that's what they do in Holland. In Holland, most if you're living in the cities and living in the outskirts, most people use their bicycles. They have their big white wheels and they have their baskets. Most people go by bicycles, so you could do it. Not something that's not doable, but I want to see you do it first. Don't tell me to do it. And you want me to use a coal pot? Stop using your fancy made wherever you got it from, oven and stove with all the accoutrements. You start tell your if you have a cook or if you're doing it, take out your coal pot and cook your food. And when you start cooking your food and boiling your cassava or whatever, then you come and tell me to do that. Okay? Because what you're telling the people of Trinidad shows the level of disconnect that you have with the people and the insulting way that you treat them as if they are unworthy of better. Unworthy of better.
Yeah. Yet another statement by the gentleman that has informed the people of Trinidad and Tobago that he's the wrong man for the job. He's the wrong person for the job. And therefore, we thought he was the correct person in 2015. Since then, we realized he was not the person. He barely got back in 2020. He lost a seat and all. But because of the banana stupidness and that kind of talk, it gave him a little pull out. Had it not been for that, he might have been slammed all the way down to 7 seats, if so many. He might have get a Tobago like him. Last general election, he might have ended up like Tobago.
I think the COVID helped him. I think
the COVID helped him, yeah. Yeah, but even with that, he was down. He was down bad. I'm telling you, I was following it online. The polls had him down bad. Even
I don't have the data. So this is my analysis. I think the polls had him down bad. Yes. So when they want to tell you about, oh God, as if they started running the country in 2020. Oh gosh, you were there since the end of 2015, 16, 17, 18, 19. Please stop getting on as if 2020 was. And by the way, I got some figures to show how much money they were able to get from different organizations, whether as soft loans or actual contributions. It is the hundreds of millions of dollars they got in donations in the year 2020. Hundreds of millions of dollars. And either CAF gave them a soft loan of 100 and something million to pay back after 5 years on a very soft terms. The United States gave them a helicopter, 8 point something for the helicopter. I mean, when they tell you about their expenses in 2020, they must tell you how much assistance they got from the World Bank, from the IMF, from CAF, from all these US embassy. Why they don't talk about that? You know, I actually wrote it down somewhere, but I write down I put on so much of this data, but I know that is I know that it's so that they have gotten tremendous assistance in it. But what I will say is this, in all fairness, from my point of view, I think people believe that Kamala was a spent force. She had lost a lot of the persons that people may have had regard for, and she did not have the financial backing. It's seen based on the her low-key, the way that she campaign. So it all sent a message that everybody, whatever he was saying, her days were over, time for her to go home. She can't get campaign funding. All her best people are leaving, and she left with a smattering. And I think the PNM got a shock of its life when she actually got another seat in she actually gained another seat in a regional corporation. And that was a shock to the PNM, because a local government election is usually a kind of rehearsal to tell you the pulse of the people. And I think when the Prime Minister saw that, he said, you know something, we are in trouble. And I think that is why he tried to bring in some of the former members of the PNM that had been estranged, because there was definitely a divide between those who still supported Mr. Manning and those who felt that Dr. Rowley had been betrayed him. And I think that one of the things he did as a politician would, he decided to say, we are all one, and then he brought them in order to give an impression of the party had dealt with its wounds and healed those wounds. But what happened soon thereafter was COVID-19. And COVID-19 may be one of the curses that this world has seen. We've learned a lot of apparently I haven't though, using the computers. I still am struggling with that, but certainly it has brought the virtual meetings in the judiciary, with companies not needing the amount of space. But more importantly, even though he started in a rocky way, he did at the end of the day, and the WHO did praise him, and a number of international organizations did praise him for how he handled COVID. And when you saw what was happening in the United States and in Europe and Italy, you looked at it and you said, he may be harsh, he may be brash, he may be whatever, but he was the Prime Minister we needed at that time. And he was smart. He said, you know what? I call in elections one time before things turn around. So he called the election, I think in August, I think, and he called it at the right time. He called it at the time when people that I know that didn't care for him had a opinion of him as being harsh and abrasive. All of a sudden, those same people were saying, you know, we have to give it to him. He really did do well with us with COVID. And so he called it then. But since COVID is over and they keep on holding on to it for dear life, I mean, the Minister of Finance talked COVID for about 4 pages, or so it seemed. He COVID me to death. And then when they had their, which you were right, you were right, Richard. They got instructions to go around like the mulberry bush to every radio and television station. But Prime Ministers, that's what they do. I mean, you can't hold it against him. He's doing that to save his government. And everyone spended as though 2016, 17, 18, 19, when their performance was abysmal, was all caused by COVID. COVID seemed to be the excuse for everything. And now people are tired of it. People have heard enough. They said, we're tired of hearing you giving excuses for things. Countries are recovering. You're looking at Barbados. They've made a positive recovery of 10 point something in real GDP. Jamaica 6.4, when just the year before they were in a negative position. So I think people don't want to hear anything more about the COVID, and they want change, and the change has to start with the leadership. If you don't start with the leader, you're wasting your time, because The reality is, a leader in itself, especially in any system, really, has a lot of power. And if you have a leader who has the power to appoint and disappoint you, has the power to remove you as a senator, has the power to remove you as a chairman, to remove you as a director, you get him vexed, remove you, you understand, keep your mouth shut. And if you're in that cabinet and you're not happy, you better keep your mouth shut. Because if you make the mistake and whisper to somebody and it get back to him, you're out of a job. So I think he's ruling by fear within the persons in his cabinet, as not all, some of them are part and parcel of it, but within members of his cabinet, certainly with those with the rank and file, he's ruling by fear and intimidation. And we cannot continue with that. And more than anything else, Richard, more than anything else, personality aside, let's deal with the real issues for the country, because at the end of the day, they have also adopted a version of the 2020 called 2030, but the same strategic plan and the same concept behind it. And this government has failed the people. They can't, there's no excuse. There's no excuse. It's 8 years. You can't blame everything on COVID. Oh my God, COVID wasn't there in 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. It wasn't there. It wasn't there. Stop pretending. And in 2022, hardly nobody talking about it again. So stop talking about that. You're tired of hearing you talking about that. And up to now, you cannot perform. You cannot perform. You cannot perform in 5 minutes timing.
At the end of the day, you said it comes down to leadership. And you're so very right. The new thing for the government now, was you and I discussed before, they believe they are victims. They're not supposed to do anything. They are the victims. You don't believe me? I know you believe me. Let's just pick out a handful of stuff. One, if you don't have gas to cook food, that's your problem. Because they have ministers who have coal pot. So you should have one too. One use a coal pot and forget cooking gas. That's what they're telling you, backward. Forever.
They have a coal pot
and that's not the problem. You want to tell you now, if you can't afford gas, it's simply because your car running the one that requires the highest price. You're running premium. And if you're driving premium, you should be able to afford it. Because once your car taking premium, it's a luxurious car. You believe that? And now they have the big man telling you, if you're in traffic, you're in traffic because you went to tongue at the wrong time. You chose the wrong time. So you could now, as you said, tell the school call at a time when you could go later for your children to reach on time. Tell your employers, hold your hand. At 8 to 9:30 traffic are coming in for 10:30. I will start to work from then. You understand? Because suddenly the employees have become the board of directors, the CEO, and complete senior management of any organization. So they could call the shot. He clean forget. Remember I told you all this guy seems to come across as not knowing management at all. He confessed it again. And that is who we have passing as the prime minister of our country. Somebody who seems to know very little or nothing as it relates to management. The other day talking, he instruct him, and then he pulled back because we've been hitting him when he went and instruct Minister Utilities. I'm instructing you to solve what's a problem. So come back. You remember that?
Well, I got
outside of management, when you would have had a discussion with your minister, you would have crafted a plan already and so on. Then you come to the media and say, for the last 2 months, we've been working on a plan and the plan will be rolled out soon to solve WASA's problem. The minister is here. He would say a few words on that next week or next month. You already hear that. But I'm instructing the minister to come up with a plan to solve it. So we came and we dissect that and highlighted how foolish it was. Like he forgot. So in the meeting before the budget, he said, I'm instructing the Minister of Finance to find an allocation to give to the nurses who did. Then he pulled back in, well, we should have talked about it. You know that? So I'm telling him, I'm requesting of him to make a provision. He tried to walk it back because he realized he was going on the same stupid road. What it means, he hears something, it sound good. He like it. He's like a Western man. He like Western talk. So like he heard somebody saying, for no good reason. Just like a saying. So the other day he said they went and the opposition was no part of the conversation for good reason. They weren't part of the conversation for good reason. He come now and talking again for no good reason. So probably he heard that somewhere, and it has become fashionable to him for the moment. He's trying to apply that to anything he had to say. I tell you, Trinidad and Tobago, we are lost. We are being led by a person who has no direction. He seems to collect a little phrase from here, somebody says something there, and he runs to the podium because he hope he could say it to come across as the first man to say it. So people might think he created that. That is his work. I have become so disappointed in this guy who I respected and admired for so long. I am telling you, it's the worst decision we have taken as a people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I'm calling on the people of our country to rally around Karen Nunez Tesheira. She has offered herself to offer the country and our party a different type of leadership. I hope you all do the right thing. Let us save our party and place Karen in position to help change the direction that this country is heading into. It's only foolishness. This is the same man who tell us the other day, crime in this country, he's convinced it is based on poor parenting. Poor parenting. So in his term, he will get parents to turn around and change their ways and take care of the children to get murders down. So he has said there, in effect, don't ask me that I'm a crime again, it's poor parenting. So whatever happened now is poor parenting. Don't blame the government for anything. This is as ludicrous as it could come. This guy has to go. We have to do what we must to make sure we get somebody new.
What he's also doing is really, again, all examples you use are really examples that really show him being out of touch, being sensitive, and trying to put the blame and not take responsibility. If he...
Well expressed, Karen. Well expressed.
Yeah, and I've said it a million times already. It is not... We all agree that if a mother and father were in the house, certainly the chances of a child going the wrong way are lessened. That is a fact. But what we have to recognize, as I keep saying, is that if one is involved in, apparently there's no Mr. Big in Trinidad. That is what the Minister of National Security said on a television show. He says, I know of no Mr. Big. Well, as a person said, oh, I shall remain nameless, is because he's not looking, apparently. But I would say he should go and visit the granny at the corner and ask her if she knows of any Mr. Big. And he should take a survey of this country and see if anybody knows of the names of the Mr. Bigs. And I feel they will get the same names coming up over and over again. But that is not the way to solve the problem. The problem is to disrupt the trade. But what I am really saying to the national community is that when our Prime Minister makes these kinds of pronouncements and talks about family thing, nobody is going to doubt that having two parents in a home help. But you also at the same time must understand that that makes those homes more vulnerable and easier for those children to be exploited. So rather than sitting down there and blaming, that's what you're doing. It says, well, I didn't do that. I did this and I didn't happen to me. Yes, you know what you should be? You belong to some private sector where you are considered and bad talk the poor people and all this and thing. Do that. But don't be the Prime Minister of the country, because the Prime Minister of the country is raising a nurturing environment and creating innovative people, right? And those same people that you are bad talking, how many of them have gone to UTT? I bet you if you go and see the number of these so-called children who came from those same neighborhoods, who attended UTT, who attended COSTAT, who attended MIC, who attended UE, who went to the private institutions that offer the degrees in accounting or certified account. You might be surprised how many of those children came from that same set of people that you are decrying. That it's called what? There is an expression that is used. It's called confirmation bias, which is if in fact you see, if I could use that example, and it is a recognized term, a recognized concept, that if you're living, for example, in the same Laventille, on that same street, 30 people living on that, 30 families. The mother is a nurse, her husband is, children studying at UE, who not studying UE, going to co-start, who studying, everybody doing something with themselves. And then on that same street, they have about 2 or 3 houses where the children, the father not in the home, the mother not around, and everybody on that street talking about that family. And so, God, you know, you're not taking care of the children, leaving the children to run wild. They're going to end up in drugs. They're going to end up in things. You know what will happen when the story busts? It's not the 2 or 3 families out of the 30 or 40 families on the street who go into church, who teaching their children the right thing, who seeing after their children and doing the best they can for their children. They wouldn't be talking about the 40 families are doing the right thing. You know, all they're concentrating is the 2 families, and those 2 families become the entire street. And then it gives you the justification to say, you see what I'm saying? So you're looking for something that confirms your bias. You're looking for something that will say that I'm right. But go to the 38 other houses where many of them, there is not a father in the house for whatever reason, but the children are going university, they're studying, they're working in the bank, and all of those same families. You go of the 38 families that you forgot to interview, who parents working in the port, but they send their children away to study, whose children on scholarship, who get a scholarship to go to Spelman or one of those, or Howard. Go to that same house and do a survey and find out how many in that same street of 40 families, how many of them are involved in that activity, but you brand them all. And that is the confirmation bias in order to justify your treatment of people. You see, man,
that is what they do, Karen. That is what they do. In effect, they pick out the one example that would suit the position they want to take, and they magnify that one alone. And then they try to convince you and me that is the way it is throughout the country. You understand that?
Absolutely. And the sadder thing about it, from my point of view, is they believe it themselves. If you say something to someone enough times, you start to believe what is being said to you. You see, you know, you start zeroing in on those 2 families, and you hear any negative conversation, and then you start believing that is true. So somebody's having a good time, Richard, and near to you. But I mean, David sitting down there very quietly in the background.
Yeah, I'm listening to you guys.
I would love to hear his views, if you don't mind, Richard, on our conversation today, especially on the way forward, because just one thing I want to say, and I would like us to repeat it at the end of the program. Many people have called me. You might be very surprised who they are. Many people. Yes, you might be very surprised. And people who I think in this country, people have a very high regard for them. You might be very surprised. The amount of calls I've gotten, congratulations.
Yes.
All of them tell me I'm courageous, and I guess I understand why. It's not really courageous to go up against him, but courageous in the times that we're living in this country. But what I want to emphasize, because they asked me, they say, oh God, we want to vote, we want to vote, we want to be involved, we want to be involved. I said, if your ultimate goal is to see a change in leadership of the government on the assumption that the PNM is successful, you're not going to achieve that goal unless you change the leadership of the party. And therefore, in order to achieve that goal, it is absolutely necessary that you register as a PNM member. And people can say what they want. You are there about saving your country. people go to battle and lose their lives. Look at it in Russia, but poor men, they're running and trying to get away from it. But they go and fight for their country. It's a noble cause. And there's not one way to fight a noble cause. There are different ways and different weapons that people have to fight a noble cause. And if your belief, as it seems to be the belief of so many people, a lack of trust, a lack of confidence, disappointment in the leadership, and it's not only, but it starts with the leader and those that he has chosen to be his preferred ministers. I won't call names. If you feel that something is terribly wrong and the country is going down in the wrong direction, you have to register to vote in the internal elections. It is absolutely, it's like, if you don't do that, you just will have to say, oh God, I wish we had a change. I feel we should have had a change. But you will not have a change. You get an opportunity, the limited opportunity. The one opportunity we have in our democracy is that finger that we can use to vote. And I am encouraging Power 102. I'm encouraging Richard to assist in the way that people ask me, well, what constituency do I need to vote in? What are the dates for voting? What do I have to do to vote? Because I'm hearing one story saying they are waiving all fees completely. And another one, they're saying you have to pay, waiving all past fees, but you have to pay 120. So I'm asking Richard if he can assist the public in knowing, one, what are the fees, if any, to register to vote in internal elections? By constituency, where are the areas that people and where they can go to find out on a map, on a telephone number. I'm doing this too, but the media can help and let them see where they can go, what days they can vote. I know they can vote on the actual day, which I think is December the 2nd, is the day of the annual general meeting, and I think they're going to release the results on December the 6th. But what my understanding has been is that you have to be very careful that they don't decide that they're going to call off the registration period earlier because too many people are registering. Because I think they might feel that if so many people want to register, it's because they want to get rid of the leadership. I mean, at the end of the day. And that's the first step, but we cannot get to the second step without the first step being taken. So if you feel that way and you feel convicted about it, no one is telling you to come on television or on radio or on a media and express your views publicly. You're entitled to keep it to yourself. But what I would say to you, if you say that you care about your country and you care about the country that you leave for your children, at the end of the day, if you care about that, this is your opportunity to start making that change. And it has to start with you. And starting with you is to register as a member of the party, which will allow you to vote for who should be the political leader. Because all the other positions, at the end of the day, the reality is the political leader is the man in charge. And
Tell
so
me, duration. Let's say I should go to register and pay whatever fee to register. Is there duration before I'm accepted as a member?
But this is all what I'm having a meeting myself to be able to educate the public on that. But even you're in media, and Richard with all his experience, and David, you yourself with all your experience, if we really are serious, we spend a lot of time saying what they're doing wrong, what they're doing wrong, what they're doing wrong, what they're doing wrong, what they're doing right. At the end of the day, they don't mind you doing that, They don't mind us doing that. It's okay, let them talk now. Let the donkey's brain. My Prime Minister, Eric Williams, say let the donkey's brain. Right? Okay, because they don't mind you doing that. Because as long as you're doing that, but you're not registering and you're not voting into elections for who you want as your political leader, then be prepared that there will be no change. If you want change, and you want change in the leadership of this in this country, it has to start with a party, and it will not happen unless you register and vote. So
Yeah.
I am asking Richard, I'm asking you, David, my team also, but the rest of the media, if you're doing a public duty, nobody's telling you who to vote for, you know. It is you have to make the choice. But at least as a public service, let us get and let us know exactly what the terms of reference are, because we don't want to be caught short-footed and find out it's too late. But I think that is what we need to do. Richard?
Well, I would tell you the process to get people
Just
registered and so on.
Mhm.
Given that it's an internal election, they would have to.
In a plane
open up
already?
again.
In an aeroplane? In an aeroplane?
If what?
If you're in an aeroplane.
No, not yet, not yet.
Oh, I see.
The vehicle that came to pick me up and others to take us to the airport.
All right. Okay, go
Oh,
ahead.
you
Sorry.
see that behind now? Yeah.
Yeah.
But what has to happen though is that they have to open up again, Karen. When they declare when the election is, they have to give you about 2 weeks to bring people up to date with their membership and all that type of thing. So that what you have to get is the list. Make sure and get the list. That's a critical thing, Karen.
A list of what? A list of registered voters?
Registered persons, yes. How many per constituency, and you have to get a team out
I
to
understand that part. But
Yeah.
what we really want to focus on now is getting new registrants. And that is what people are asking. People are asking, how do I, because they do understand that there can be no change in the government if it is the People's National Movement is the ends up to be the government again. There can be no change in the leadership unless it's a change in the leadership of the party. So we are talking about people who are not registered. So could you educate us on what is required for those who are not registered, and then also say, is there anything that the registered person needs to do in order to vote? Because you know, I know it's the party has a process, and I would like you to outline it, and I would like you then for us to continue to let the public know that, so that they can do their part.
You hear that, Richard?
No, asking her to repeat. A call interrupted the transmission.
No, I'm saying, but it's a two-part question. One, for persons who have registered, there is a list of registrants for each constituency, and you are entitled to get that list. Is there anything at that time, David made a point. He says, even if you're registered, is there some time frame involved in before you can actually go and vote, even though you're registered? Secondly, for those who are not registered, but want to be registered to join the party, to be able to vote in internal elections, what is required that they must do? And how do they know where to go?
Well, I don't know what's the arrangement right now. It used to be done in 2 ways. You join a party group and do it through the party group, through the constituency executive. But in more recent years, people have gone and carried the application straight to Balize House and got it done there. Join.
So where do you get the application from?
Balize House, the general secretary. He must.
So if Balize House, which is, I had the experience of going there, it's behind what appears to be at least a $50 million new hub thing and building, and I had to go in the back, and it was an old person can't go there. So is it not available online?
It may be. What I would suggest, you as the person who running, you shouldn't inquire about those things.
I am going to, and I will do that, but I am using now the opportunity that I am on the media, and I have someone who has experience that can do that before I dig deeper. If I can ask you for your guidance and what you know that is required.
Right. I know the engine in this bus on, believe me, I'm not hearing too well, but I think I'm trying to pick up what you're asking. You're asking if you do it, how you will get the information or something like that?
one, can we do it online? If you can't do it online, where do you get the forms? And
Right.
how do you know where you're supposed to go to get the forms? And after
Right.
you get the forms, is there a time frame within which, I mean, that it has to reach the Balize house to be registered?
Right. So I believe you will get that information from Anthony Roberts, who I think they put as chairman of some committee to handle those things. Yeah. Or the general secretary. Foster Commons.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So one of those persons would be able to give you the information, but take it from the official source. I would say first try the general secretary. Do you understand that?
Yeah, I'm listening to you.
But what I will do for you, Karen, I'll personally, when I get back, I will call to find out what the process is and inform you.
Yes, and if you could put it on a WhatsApp to me so that I can forward it.
Yeah. So I'll check it out for you too.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going to do it, but I am just concerned that people, I mean, so many people are so disenfranchised and so disappointed and that doesn't translate into anything, What translates into something is that what the power that you have to register and vote. And that's how you have been given that opportunity. And if you are serious about change and you just, rather than just, complain about it, and I understand we all complain, I complain, we all complain. But if we want to do something and make a change, you've got to go beyond that. Because if you don't, you will be doing exactly what they want you to do, which is not to register and not to vote. Because for you to make the effort and we will get the application forms, we will make copies of it, circulate it, and get people, and then of course help them by taking it in. I don't know if you have to take it in personally, or would they allow you to take it in if you have a copy of the photocopy of the person's ID, and all of that we have to sort out. So we want to make it as easy as possible for new registrants to be able to register and vote, as well as for those who are already registered to make sure that there are no hiccups that will prevent them from voting. Because this is an important election, because we have spent so many Mondays and sometimes a Tuesday talking about how things have gone from bad to worse. And we don't want to be one of those countries that we just sit down there, people who sit down there and complain. And then people couldn't make a change, who have the ability to contribute to a change, are not doing it. And so that is why I am raising this with you and the importance of it. I don't know if Daddy Mark, because you are under a lot of pressure, I can see being in that bus. So I don't know if David wants to add and help out the situation with.
Well, I too listening at the process or the processes to be registered and all of that, if I so desire. Because for me to get into the thing, I have to see someone who is talking about the issues, somebody who is dealing with the relevance of the now, as to the kind of crap I'm hearing from these leaders who are really turning people off and getting people in a real kind of annoyed kind of mood. People are very, I don't know, they're not words to describe how some people are thinking about these statements and the gestures made by these leaders. So I personally I said I wasn't going to vote again in life unless there is someone who will take the podium and tell me what they will do, what they'll try to do, what the intention will be where the government is concerned, to govern for everybody. I cannot be convinced by the kind of things I'm hearing now. I mean, in these days, they're telling me go back to a cool pot, ride a bike, leave for 1 o'clock in the morning to reach Porter's Place for 5 o'clock, and all this kind of man. I don't understand that kind of politics at all. I think it's a disrespect, and it's like I giving you my money to save for me, and when I need something, you boof me up and you rough me up, and you tell me no, you can't get it, and you can't get it, and so I am willing to stain my finger again for somebody who is willing to put the country first and foremost, and to take us to where we should have been long.
Are we saying that? Are we saying that? In all these conversations we've had, I think I have not only pointed out the failings, but I hope I have come forward with some that will help to put the country forward.
Of course.
Yes, and I just want to reiterate that, because I think you're making a very good point, and that's why people say, oh, same old, same old. But the first thing I would do is put a ceiling on those cars. That's an easy win, a quick win. You don't need 100 days to do that, and it sends the right message. I think that's very, very doable. The other thing I would also do is that there is, if the English is correct, a suite of food items that we import into this country, that if they weren't to continue to import it, I put a much higher VAT on those. If you want to eat it, pay the cost of eating it. We just can't afford that luxury at this time. Thirdly, I would put a lot of emphasis on the food import issue from various perspectives. If you're telling me we import 80% of our food, and you have a country like Holland that is, as I've said many times over and over again, 225 or 224 times smaller than America, and the second global largest exporter of food of 90 billion a year, we're no longer dealing with the old time way of farming. It's a very much more technologically driven, and therefore the space that you need to be able to do it, you do not need the kind of space that you needed before. What you need is the technology. What you need is the expertise. And we have a ministry and a faculty of agriculture, and we have a lot of young people, and we certainly have enough land to be able to, based on just the fact that the size is not the question anymore. So I would definitely, I think Botuari spoke about it in more detail, but it's the same idea, that you would set up a program where you'd have the farm to table in Trinidad, where the same company, and you're doing it as an apprenticeship. You're not giving them the money and telling them, we're not giving you, we easing up on this, we don't have to pay. Yes, you're going to do those things, but you have like an apprenticeship, and you starting with products or food items that have a 3-month period for which to grow. So let's say tomatoes, to make it in tomato paste, or to make it in tomato choker, or do the baygon and to make baygon choker. And then you move it along, but you then take it, label it, but you get people who are experienced, who understand first world standards, who understand the upmarket, Harrods market that you want to penetrate. That is the market you want to penetrate. And those are the people definitely have to give the guidance when it comes to the marketing and the packaging. And when it comes to the actual growing of the product, you need the ministry and the faculty to work in tandem with these young people, form them into companies. And instead of, you're going for a while, have to give them these subsidies, but you have a plan moving forward. Rome was not built in a day. But if you start doing that, what is going to happen? A number of good things are going to happen. And then you work with your CARICOM brothers and sisters. You have Guyana with land done. You have Suriname, and you can then, we have the agro-industry experience. We have the experience in the upmarket. We know because of the sophistication, because of the UTTs, because of the Arthur Lockjack, because of all our institutions that we have developed over the last few years. We have the level of savoir-faire, and that's what you're talking about. Because let me tell you something. I think sometimes if you take what is inside a bottle out of that beautiful bottle, it may be worth 5 cents, but it is the marketing, it is the labeling, it's the way that it is presented, and that makes you pay that up market value. Like with chocolate, with cocoa. If I would also say that we should take a part of the country, a man already is doing that in Trinidad with organic sugar. Let's expand that and make organic sugar made in Trinidad. I would also grow sugar, but sugar like they do in Barbados, specifically for the rum industry, and not just to make rum, but rum infused products. A whole suite of rum infused products, packaging. So we will deal with the sugar from the point of view of using it for the value added, just like what you do with natural gas and LNG. Go up the value added chain, but you're producing the rum and rum made in Trinidad. Then the steel pan, as I've said already, we are the home of steel pan.
Yes.
Not only do we want to have factories where these young men can work, but have share ownership, shareholding. Don't let them be working. Let them have ownership in the industry. And then the packaging, the leather thing, and made in Trinidad, the home of steel pan. And then you put with it a video. And in the video, you give the story of the steel pan. And then say that there are lessons if you want. You can join something, and lessons in how to play pan, classical music, this music, how much, and tune in. So then you create a whole market there with the steel pan industry, with the making of the steel pan, the packaging of the steel pan, and the teaching of the steel pan. Look what I'm telling you, and those things are not hard. Anything I told you they're hard, nothing that I told you hard. And when you do that, and also you stop bringing in these international franchises, we have to reduce them because they're increasing our health bill with the non-communicable diseases. So we have to reduce the number of foreign franchises operating in this country and replace them with local franchises, so that we reduce our food import bill, we reduce the call on our foreign exchange, and we also create a whole new cohort of micro entrepreneurs who have pride in what they're doing, but they need guidance. They don't know how to do the marketing, and somebody is not going to tell them how to do it, but people know how to do it. They know how to package that chocolate. They know how to package that pineapple chow. They know how to package it, how to sell it. So if you start doing that, you will take people off subsidies. You will make them able to contribute to the economy, and they will also buy from the 10% who have gotten all the help that they could possibly want in this world,
yes,
and more. And then you will understand that you need to put a focus. That's what you need to put a focus on, growing the economy. Because when we talk about the inflation rate and you look at the basic things, which will be food, rent, and transport, and you pull that out, that is what the man in the street has to struggle with every single day. And what England is doing is they know their inflation rate is about 10%. It's ridiculous. But what they're doing is trying to grow their economy. So if you grow your economy enough, it will then impact on the impact of inflation. Because if your economy is growing and people are succeeding and people are getting disposable income, then you're going to see, and it's not a utopia, because it's not going to work for everybody. We don't have a dictatorship. We don't have a Singapore. We don't have a Dubai where the leader is the leader and you better follow the rules. And that's how it's going to be. We don't have a country where we are homogeneous in the sense of Barbados and Jamaica, where they have the same race, so they don't have to deal with issues of culture and religion that complicates, but also makes us a fabulous place to live in. Yeah. So what you've got to do is make those lemons into lemonade and lemon meringue pie. But you have to first start with a very focused, whoever is the minister, you might have to appoint 2 or 3 ministers in that ministry, the agro industry. Somebody from the faculty with their expertise, somebody from, of course, the ministry people, and then you have to get people who have experience in the agro industry. But you deal with the micro, because the big ones dealing with themselves. You don't have to deal with them, but you don't want to crowd them out of the market. Give them a share of the market, because that's how you will ensure there's income equality. You will ensure growth in the economy. You will ensure people getting off of subsidies, reducing our import bill, and also get rid of all these franchises. We don't need so many of them in this country. What are we doing with all of these? Instead of that, also too, everywhere, I've told you that before, I have gone to Mississippi, where it's like a backwater, and I have been able to go in a supermarket and buy naan. We have to find a way that company in Jamaica did with their parties. That every time I went, everybody who went would buy their parties and bring them home. We have to find a way to be able to package the doubles with all the different dips and everything that you can, with Kariri helping with the science part of it, so that you can package it. And just as how they have these dinners, frozen lunches, we can start doing that, sending them up the islands, sending it up to North America, where there's a huge diaspora, and introducing it. There's so much that can be done. And I'm saying, look at all of what I'm saying. I'm saying to you, I'm not coming with problems. I'm coming with realistic prescriptions, and with culture and tourism. There's so much that can be done, and we have to. We can't have them in silos, because our cultural tourism must work hand in hand with community development. Because then you have training. Now, what you have to do, this is why it has to be holistic. You can't tell people to have an Airbnb. You have to train people in what an Airbnb must look like, the standards that they require for Airbnb, right? So you have them get a piece of the pie. The guest houses, let them get a piece of the pie. The hotels, they get a piece of the pie. Then the agro industry, they will then supply these institutions. They will and supply the restaurants from the market to table. People love that idea that what they're eating came from grown here, market to table, but it's how it's presented. So you can't give them a big, huge piece of dumpling and a big, huge piece of, no, it's all presentation. All of it is elegance. All of it is done in an upmarket way. And there are people in Trinidad and Tobago who are very well capable of training people, because the people that work for them do the work, they own the business. And they have the R&D, and they have the knowledge. And what we need to do now is to translate that knowledge to the micro and the small Chow Kings, to create that and do it in culture and tourism. And I would say at the same time, while you're doing that, the secret of success is secret. So I won't say what I would do with crime, because if you do that, it's given away. I won't say it, but I don't think that I haven't thought about it. And finally, insofar as reality is, this is reality. And when you have something that's good, don't close it. Don't shut the doors. Don't shut the doors unless you have to. The reality is natural gas and LNG is around for a good while, especially LNG. We have the advantage over a lot of countries. Do you know one time America imported 75 to 80% of its LNG in 2008? When I was in government, I know they were doing that from Trinidad to run their buses. Do you know that? So what we need to do is to find the sources of natural gas and the production that we don't have, that we probably won't ever have. But when these large countries, including Germany and even in Venezuela, after all what they talked about not doing business with PDVSA in Venezuela, they're allowing them to ship these crude oil. And it's not a sweet light oil, it's crude heavy oil from PDVSA to Italy and to Spain, to Repsol and Eni or whatever the correct name. So they know how to make adjustments. And I think now with this talk about reparations, and now this talk about the climate change and how it's affecting the small economies, and people like Mia Motley getting the audience of people to listen to the vulnerability of our small states. We are no competition to anybody. We don't want your aid. We want you to come and visit us and have a good time. We want you to say that in the end of the day, you helped us in a positive way to grow our economy. So when it comes to natural gas, I think we need to insist that we have to get natural gas, because all the plans of all the things are going polypropylene and polyethylene, which Mr. Man used to talk about a lot. And all the plans about the methanol and all the plans down the value chain and all of that is talk unless you have the production. And I will say this, the persons who invest in it are not the local, and I don't mean it I mean it in this way, meaning that their shareholders are in England and in Holland. And when they see that they're not making sense for them, And when you see they don't want Russia to hold them to ransom, and China and Russia now look like they playing a game, a little dance between themselves, you've got to believe that they are working at a feverish pace so that they can lessen their dependency on gas pipeline. But until they get a replacement for the fossil fuel, until it makes sense to decarbonize the natural gas, which people don't know, it's capture, then you have to storage, and then you have to try to use it. And from my readings on it, it's very expensive. It's a long process. So what I would say, what we need to focus on is getting ourselves the natural gas. We have the expertise that Guyana doesn't have, that a lot of the African countries have. We have had it. We've been in the business nearly over 100 years. So let's capitalize on that. But what we need to do is look at the natural gas and make sure wherever we have to get that production, if me and Motley can sit down and tell them, listen, this de-risking, what you asking the banks in the Caribbean to comply with your regulations, the international banks are not interested in all of that work. It's not worth it to them. And so what you are doing is putting us at risk of getting a SWIFT code so that we can have credit transfers, we can have transfers in terms of wire transfers, and putting us at risk. And I think this whole idea of reparations, this whole idea that people are looking at climate change and seeing the vulnerability of these small states, I think this is our time to say to them, we need the natural gas. We are no threat to you. We can help you, but you have to help us to help ourselves. So you have gotten a good indication of what I would do. I suppose they might take my ideas. It took some of it already, but that's all right. That's all it is. I see they have culture and tourism and art. Whether you like it or not, I had Lehman Brothers sign an MOU to come into the International Financial Center. Whether you like it or not, there was no run on Republic Bank, on CLICO, or any banks. There was none of that because of the way it was handled. Whatever they want to say about Karen Tesheira, we handled it in such a way that we avoided what happened in Latin American countries, what happened in so many European countries, that there was a panic and people rushing to get their money out. And we were able not for that not happening. In fact, Standard & Poor's had put us on a negative watch because they wanted to see how we handled it. And after 3 months, they took us off of it because they were satisfied with the steps that we were taking. So I just want to say that as a former Minister of Finance, I think I have been put through the fire in terms of having to handle a $23 budget for oil when it fell from $100 to $23, and we had to go twice to revise the budget. I had to deal with something that no other government had to deal with, the CL Financial CLICO crisis at a time when there was a global crisis and countries were in a state and people were panicking and rushing their money, and we avoided that. And that didn't just happen by chance. You might want to say it happened by chance, but it didn't happen by chance. It did not happen by chance, okay? As hard as it is for you to admit it to yourself, it did not happen by chance. And the Financial Institutions Act, we got that passed. And the Revenue Authority, it was passed in the lower house. So in a 2.5 years I was there, just to say, I not only talk the talk, I will walk the walk. I will walk the walk.
I know.
But I can't walk it unless you put me in the position to walk.
I hear you loud and clear.
And the last thing I would say, one thing, those, I don't want to say 1%, 2%, 3%. I do not want to do that. I want to say a percent, and it's a small percent. You never want them to own you. Never let them own you. Never, ever let them own you. Because the day they want to give you too much money to help you with your campaign, to help you with anything, they call in the shots. And if they call in the shots, you're going right back to what people complain about, which is the corruption in this country. Yeah. So if you will notice in the 12 years, I will not say what Mr. Pandey said, go to the police. I'll tell them, come right to you, but make sure you have your evidence, because there's something called defamation. And there's something called the onus will be on you to prove the truth of what you are saying. So I welcome anybody to come forward to say what I ever did anything that was wrong, or stole anything, or went into any corrupt dealings with anybody, or benefited. You know why you can't? Because you can't. That's why you can't.
Karen, I prefer you not to take this time to talk about that. Anybody who wants to talk about any such thing, that's not your problem.
Right.
It's not your business. That's theirs.
That's it. Be done with that. I outlined when people say, well, what would you do differently? I had to say that. The reason I had to say that, because, can I just say the reason I had to say that? I had to say that in the context that a lot of times people may come in with good intentions, but they find themselves not able to carry it out because they have been compromised.
Yeah.
I like what you outlined about what would be done differently. If you should get in, I told you all I had to cut away, so I'll cut away in about 2 minutes time or less, because I had to plug in my device. I know that was going to happen. I calculated it. So let me just say this. I like what you have outlined for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. If you should become the next Prime Minister of our country, the people of our country, we have suffered immensely. We have made a monumental error to have the person whom we have in power today as Prime Minister. We have been suffering as a result of it, all the people of our country. And this is a fine opportunity for us to set this huge wrong right. And I believe you are one of the persons who could do that. You have laid out openly what you intend to do. And I think it's admirable. It's something that can help the people of our country. And I want to commend you for this, and any way in which...
Yeah, we're not hearing
you. We're losing you.
We know what we kind of, can you read?
Neither can I. But I guess he's saying that he'll be 100% behind you in support if you should take that high road. You have 110% from me also.
Thank you very much. And you know that at the end of the day, I think people can, people underestimate the power of a person to assess someone else. And they may not be able to put it, articulate it, and say it in all the fancy words. But using a Trinidad parlance, they say, my brother ain't take she.
Yeah.
You ever hear that?
Yeah.
They say, why you don't like I know, my brother take she, my brother take she.
Yeah.
Well, there's a book called Blink. I don't know if you ever heard about it. It's a very small book. It's a very tiny little book. And the young man who wrote it actually was the son of a white South African, or black, but he was half white, half black. And I knew one of the parents was South African. That I knew. But the thing that made his book such a phenomenal success, and it relates to what I'm saying now, is that, sometimes people talk about a sixth sense, have a sixth sense. Mm-hmm. What he said in his book, as I understood it, it's not really a sixth sense, We, in our lifetime, the amount of information that comes at you, even as I'm speaking to you, but peripherally to me, because things are going around you, around me. And over time, we have experiences, even those that we can't remember really. But let's say you had an experience where an adult or a child was a liar, and there was something about their mannerism, something about them that stuck in that little brain of yours that is called a computer, or something about them, maybe they're stealing, and there was something about them that you can't put it into words, but somehow your little brain called your computer, in the back files, it registered there. So without you being consciously conscious of it, when you meet up with it in different times in your life, there's something that says to you, not consciously, but that those images of what you associate with those negative things you see it because we are very nuanced, you know. We are very nuanced human beings. I mean, people can tell if you're looking at them with contempt with a very slight movement of their face. With a very slight movement of their face, they can show all kinds of emotions. And without you knowing it, you are making an assessment of that person, but it is really based on your past experiences, which have been filed away, but inform your opinion. So it's not like some kind of magical spiritual thing. I'm not saying there's no spiritual element, because I haven't died and come back. Right? So, you know, I don't have those answers, and none of us do. No matter what we say, we can only have our faith and follow the faith that we have, and that is it. We'll find out in the end, or not. Or not. But the point I'm making is that at the end of the day, people make a just assessment of you. And as I'm saying that, I recall what was very important when we were dealing with the CL financial issue. I just have to say this, that we were very aware that the clock was ticking behind us and the story was close to being unraveled and meeting the media. We knew some of the names of the media houses that were asking questions. So when we finally made the announcement, one of the things that certainly I insisted on and the Prime Minister supported is I had to be seen to be smiling with Mr. Dupré, who wanted to fire my husband in earlier days, but I want seen to be smiling with Mr. Dupré, because people see before they hear. And what they're saying, they will be saying, again, let me use Trini parlance. Look, she, I don't believe her, you know. Yes, yeah, she not making no eye contact. Nah, I don't believe them, you know. They're trying to fool me. I'm going to take out my money. So it was very, very important that you by your body language and by your interaction conveyed a sense of working together and a sense of being of confidence and in charge. And that's something that obviously becomes because people can read body language and can read facial expressions even when you feel you're not giving yourself away. Yeah?
Yes, I agree.
So we lost Richard completely.
I don't know. I'm still seeing him there.
Richard looks quite
Occupied. Preoccupied.
Yeah.
Also, I'm here and I'm listening. I'm just trying to manage the life in the phone. So I'm making some adjustments. But
so what would you have to say in terms of the importance of building confidence and having that trust, you know, that which I think Mia has been able to do, And I wonder, what is this? What do you think? I mean, all joking aside, what is it about her that people feel that? I mean, I'm sorry, Mr. Prime Minister, but it's how people feel, you know.
Well, we've lost Richard. It seems like in transition now. But I think she's dealing with the issues from the bottom up. You know, and she's calling a spade. Like you said, all these different franchises that are taken away from local entrepreneurs who have the know-how. There are lots of people who travel big times, you know, and they stay quiet. They tell you all the experiences they have been involved in and what they have seen and all the methodologies that can take us forward. There are lots of people like that here. I know a lot of them. And for some reason, it is always made to be seen as though to get those kind of things set up. Because we have a royal castle that is Trini franchise, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. There could have been others. I mean, in all different varieties, you know, but it seemed as though that has been made a very difficult climb for people who are into that, or very, very, very expensive. You know, I myself is trying a project. I can say it because it's right on the main road and everybody is seeing what I'm doing. And I'm trying to change what I had as a retail store into something more in keeping with the trend in things now. You know, and I mean, the cost of completion As it is, all my estimates hit the ground because while I was fighting up with the 2-year pandemic lockdown, that impacted on me big times because I never saw it coming. And that happened in 2020. I started my project in 2019. And it's been an uphill battle. First of all, because of the 2-year delay. And then after that, we were met with prices that were soaring. I mean, what was $100 became $300. What was $300 became $1,000 and all this kind of thing. So I found myself in a dilemma where I have to try and create the rest of investing capital by whatever means. I mean legal means. Work hard to try to finish. When I think my idea is fantastic, I think I have the right people behind me, but I don't have a capitalistic sort of what should I say, entity or person who will say, okay, David, I see you reach this far, let me assist you to reach the end. So I'm putting myself as the example because I know lots of friends of mine who try the same entrepreneurial move, but they don't own their property like me, so they're lost. It breaks my heart to know the kind of money they lost. They're owing the banks now. They're not working as before. It's a whole milieu of confusion. So I am thinking that I listen to the people in the THA. And to me, every time I look at Let's Talk to Big, I always look at that program because what I see them doing is hitting the ground and finding young entrepreneurs and giving them some kind of assistance to move forward.
And that's what is necessary. But you see, David, and I have to be careful the road I walk here now.
Yes.
But the fact of the matter is, you want cheap labor and you want available labor to be available to do things that may not be legal. And once people start feeling a sense of ownership, a sense of pride, a sense of, I thought I couldn't do it, but I could do it. Yeah. Then you start to see that that pool drying up, and that pool not being available, and that pool saying, no, we see another way for ourselves. And that's something that I think is a particular problem in Trinidad in particular, because it is allowed to grow to where it is today. And that is why I say that the government must get involved. And I could just say before, because we're nearly finished, and actually I'm going on another show shortly. But when they talked about privatization, maybe the next time we can go into it in more detail. But it's a good word to just bandy about privatization. But do you know that in the United Kingdom, where they're having the rail and the bus strike, you know that whilst they privatize both, it's not completely privatized. Both of them are subsidized by the government, because the government understands that it's a socio-economic sector. And therefore, whilst it might be profit-driven and profits for the private sector, and therefore the idea is that you will work better, you'll get better quality and all those good things that come with privatization. At the same time, even in England, they understand that they need to, they are the people, many people who would be, with the cost of transport, simply have to be helped. And so there is that subsidy made available. Now, when they talk about water, they say water is fully privatized. But when you read the articles on about water, you see everything has a negative. So you always have to do a balancing act. What they say is that the government paid off all the VSEP and everything, so they gave them a clean balance sheet when the 4 or 5 different water companies took over. I think most of which are not British, but are foreign. But the problem is that they're so profit-driven, and their shareholders are so profit-driven that a lot of the maintenance and the upkeep and the quality, they are allowing things to fall apart, because the government is not there to subsidize and do the maintenance. And they're not really minded to take their profits and put it into the kind of maintenance and the kind of proactive measures needed to provide clean, potable water. because their focus is more on making profits for their shareholders. So there's a negative side of going full privatization. Yes, you hope at that point in time you get a better, and in fact, one of the studies showed that I think it was really in relation to the bus transport, that contrary to what they were saying, it was no more reliable than it was before it had been privatized. So it's not a simple discussion, and when we talk about it, I can assure you those persons interested in privatization, I'd be very surprised if they're local.
Yeah.
And if they're local, I would like to see the terms and conditions under which they were offered. But up to now, they haven't been able to get what's so right, no matter what the Prime Minister has instructed